parents, the child goes to the teacher who will guide that child. What do you mean by external moral authority? You use that expression a lot. Materialism has to do with when you are
Hello, it's great to have all of you back for the course in Values and Spirituality. Today we will be looking at developing moral muscle. For those of you who are following us with the book, we are on page 103 and we're almost at the end of book number 1. As you know, I'm in the studio with Sister Denise, who is the author of these 8 books, and on your behalf I bid her a very warm welcome. Hello, Sister Denise.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Okay, developing moral muscle. I'd have to point out what is contained in the first few lines of this chapter. 2 components essential for effective education in values and spirituality are experiential understanding of universal core values and the ability to make ethical decisions. I would like you to explain what those terms mean, and more specifically, how does one apply it practically?
You remember in another episode I talked about feeling. Feeling yourself, feeling what has happened to you. And experiential understanding of universal core values means that you have experienced to feel what does it mean to be at peace. You feel what love is, you feel what personal power is, because when you've felt it, it's part of you. This real deep feeling of these characteristics, these qualities, has to come together with willpower. Feeling is in the mind. Willpower is in the intellect. When you have felt it, and you also cultivate willpower, then you are equipped to shift yourself from whatever your condition is into one of self-responsibility to be able to actually apply what we're calling here as moral muscle. Moral muscle I'm equating with the will to do what you know is the right thing. When somebody is morally weak, and you also hear this word moral fiber. It's an analogy that says that you can really stand up for what you believe in. I'm remembering a judgment that I heard in South Africa a while ago by a very well-known judge where he used the word that the accused had lost his moral compass. I like that expression a lot. And moral compass is also an expression that we use in this course a little later on, because this is where you understand your direction and you go in that direction. And once you go off in the wrong direction, you're going to end up in the wrong place. Very often a person really knows that what they feel like doing is not right. And the ability to prevent themselves from doing it is so weak that they do it anyway.
Yes, many find themselves in that position.
This is what I call weak will. And one of the attributes of addiction, which is also called a progressive disease of the spirit, is that your ability to actually do what you know is the right thing is gone, altogether gone. So either you have to restore it when it's totally gone, or you have to strengthen it when it's become weak. Now, how does a person become weak-willed? I think it is that you repeatedly do actions against your conscience, and this will erode your willpower. So in order to bring it back to its proper position and to its proper strength, you have to start to act according to your conscience. And that requires a great deal of courage, because there's a price to pay for that.
What price are you referring to?
Have you heard the expression, no good deed goes unpunished?
Often, all too often.
So the price you pay for doing the right thing is what people call punishment.
Why is that? Why does one get punished for doing good?
You don't get punished, but it costs you, and people use the word punishment for the price you pay for doing the right thing.
I'm thinking of the instances where it feels like punishment.
It feels like punishment because we're in an environment where doing the wrong thing is really easy, it's rewarded, everyone has some sort of tacit agreement to say and act as if certain things that are wrong are actually okay because everybody does it. And as soon as you start going against that, you make everybody look bad. And they will take revenge for that through some means. They will accuse you of being goody-goody two-shoes. They will say that you're trying to make me look bad and that's morally incorrect. They'll find all kinds of ways to demonstrate that their ego reaction, because you make them look bad in terms of it's an attack on their false ego, and then the ego responds to that very powerfully with an attempt to make you feel bad about doing the right thing. This is the kind of punishment you get. Or you will lose your job, or you will be sidelined, or a variety of things, which are a form of punishment, but you're doing something right in an environment where people are wanting everybody to accept compromised values, and as soon as you don't, then you're not conforming and you'll get punished for not conforming. In the name of being a non-conformist is the same thing as being bad. So conformity and morality becomes the same thing, and this is why ultimately my thinking is that conventional morality is not what we need. It has failed us because of this very reason. And so instead of that, what I'm proposing is for a person to develop a very powerful connection with the divine and to absorb virtue and spiritual power. And then morality in comparison with that is second class, second grade, and you don't need it.
When you put it that way, it sounds so obvious, but I'm wondering, how does one implement what you just say? To understand it as something, but how does one put it into practice?
To me, the only way you can put it into practice is to get strong. And why I am in favor of a spiritual practice, a meditation practice, is that you draw power, spiritual power, from a spiritual source. You draw the power to be true to yourself. You draw the power to be sensitive to what's right. You draw the power to endure all of these punishments that get given to you. And you draw the power to be alone, because once you start to do this, the other people will marginalize you and you will have to stand alone.
Okay, explain what you mean by marginalize in that scenario.
If you do not conform to the accumulating moral laxity that is the conventional way of doing things, then you are a non-conformist. And if you do not conform, you make that laxity visible, and then you become the enemy. And so then you will be put on one side and everybody else will be on another side, and you will be scapegoated.
Yep, that sounds like punishment. Okay, so I want to go further into the second paragraph, which reads, It is relatively easy to be in touch with our core values, but arriving at an ethical decision can be more difficult, especially if the decision is one of right versus right. That one had me staring at the wall for a few seconds, wondering what you were saying. So I would like you to not only explain it, but to give our viewers a practical example of what it is that you mean.
I think we need to go back to the two strands that are operating in the world today. One is the strand of archaic social values, which have a whole set of moral principles which say these are right. It is right to position women as secondary in relationship to men. It is right to position underprivileged people as secondary and not deserving of rights in comparison with privileged people, etc. The other strand is one which favors equality, human rights, and a sort of a level playing field. And these two views both consider themselves right. So when you have right versus right, you have something that is right according to the archaic social values coming in a direct clash with the democratic, liberal, human rights-based values. And then which one is right? Well, they both claim to be right. And if you go on one side, then you're against the other side. If you go on the other side, then you're against that side. So each side will penalize you. And then you say to yourself, all right, let me look at the details of the philosophy of karma. Because each one of these two strands are man-made. The philosophy of karma is not man-made. It's a law, rather like the laws of physics, and they're just there to be discovered, not to be created by a human being. Can't say, well, I think we'll have gravity and it'll go at this rate, you know, and at another time it can go at a different rate. It's not like that. So when you bring in this third angle of the philosophy of karma, then you can actually evaluate among these two strands, how are you going to operate such that the action that you do will be right, not according to either one of them. Then you're looking at the laws of karma, which are the rules that govern action, interaction among people, between people and God. There's karma there too, between people and nature. And so you're not pitting one man-made system against another man-made system, but you're pitting a system which is, you could say, a natural law or a divine law, and you're looking at the conflict between the man-made systems through the lens of a divine law. And that means that you have greater clarity and you're able to work out a course of action, find an option that's going to take you to the best possible outcome, and you may incur the wrath of the people who represent either one of these two strands, but you'll be able to hold your own in terms of arguing your case for what you did. That's good.
It does feel, at the end of what you just said, that the person will have developed some sense of self-pride at having made such an achievement, such a personal achievement.
It's a huge thing. I think sometimes people don't give themselves enough credit for being able to achieve the ability to work with these three strands, two man-made strands, and one, I'm calling it a divine strand. But a natural law also.
You go on to say in paragraph 3, willpower is a further essential component of sound character. Many things weaken our will, and then you go through a list. The more we indulge in unproductive thoughts, the weaker our moral muscle becomes. Self-doubt, ambivalence, and lack of confidence also weaken the will. Now, as I read this, I see that most of us on the planet have these insects that take a bite at our sense of self on a daily basis. We may lack confidence and have self-doubt, ambivalence, and lack of self-confidence as far as the way we look, the way we speak, our professional lives, no matter how good you may be at it or not, your relationships, your personal relationships, your professional relationships, your relationships with your children, your friends, your family. This happens in every area of our lives. It's bites that happen on a daily basis. How does one resolve this?
Well, you have to see your situation vis-a-vis those who maybe send the insects, you can say. In a society which is patriarchal, anyone who's a woman has received messages throughout her life that women are not to be trusted, they're not intelligent, they don't know what they're doing, they're basically liars. And if you say something that corresponds to your position and your own values, you will be met with a barrage of messages that are trying to discount your position and put you down. And this is something that can really weaken your will. What that means is that if you are in an inferior position, you have to be far superior in terms of how you apply your intelligence, your sense of self-worth, etc., because the odds are stacked against you. And there are not that many people who are intellectually superior to those who are superior to them in terms of social position, financial status, position in the professional arena or whatever. And so it's those few who are very adept, who have to, in a sense, carry the weight for all the others who are not. And what happens in the patriarchal society is it'll create patriarchal women. And patriarchal women are given a message that if you support the patriarchal message against other women, we will give you some special privileges. And a lot of women will buy into that, which means you can receive privilege as long as you go against your peers. And then if you have a woman who says, well, I'm not going to buy that one, I'm not going for that deal, then instead of getting the privilege of the patriarchal women, you will be shot down very powerfully, which means that not only you have to be intellectually and in every other way superior, but you have to know how to defend yourself in an unequal combat. And women are not so keen on engaging in combat for survival when it's sort of cheaper and easier to capitulate. But somebody has to do that.
Okay, so you end off by saying, on the other hand, courage, commitment, self-sacrifice, and perseverance strengthen our willpower. Once a person has defined, formulated, and decided upon their own ethical policy, it is easier for them to exercise willpower and remain immune to external influences. This is very powerful, and I think something that in our hearts of hearts we all aspire to be. But how to get there? It seems like Mount Everest to most viewers.
You know, there are a few people who are Everest summiteers, and when somebody has done it, it means it can be done. You see, so that even though not everybody can expect themselves or be expected to do it, if there are just a few courageous people, whether it's women or in a matter where there's a racial bias or a caste bias or whatever the bias is, and you surmount that great obstacle, you're showing the other people in a similar position to yourself that it can be done. Do not be afraid, you see. Because otherwise, if you see that nobody's done it, then you can be afraid. And that system of intimidating large groups of people is broken when one person doesn't get intimidated and one person breaks through, or a few people break through, then it creates a more level playing field, even though the odds are stacked. You see, it changes how people feel about themselves and think about themselves.
The theme of today's talk is willpower and resilience. I'm also looking at the word perseverance that you mentioned at the bottom of this. I once heard perseverance described as stick-to-itiveness by a child, which I thought was quite priceless, wasn't it?
Wonderful.
Okay, so tell us, what is willpower and resilience? I must say resilience is a beautiful term, and it resonates such power. What it says to me is that the more stronger one chooses to be, the more resilient you become against whatever life throws at you, and the more your self-respect grows. So take us through this and why you think it's important for the viewer to know.
Once a person decides to embark upon a course like this and they want to develop their capacity to meditate and to live according to the principles of spirituality, one of the things they also learn pretty quickly is there will be opposition.
Yeah.
So your relationship with opposition changes, because a regular person is trained to think that opposition means you shouldn't do it.
Okay, so when you speak of opposition, you mean internal and external, don't you?
All varieties, all varieties. Can be circumstantial, it can be someone gets in the way, it can be from the inside, it can be health, it can be all sorts of strange synchronicities. But a person who engages in spirituality thinks of opposition rather in the way that somebody who practices at the gym thinks of weights. These weights are there to increase my muscles. I'm not going to say this weight shouldn't be too heavy or it's too heavy. So the person who's engaging in spiritual practice and who wants to develop this aspect of themselves, their relationship with opposition is that the opposition is considered positive, useful. Its purpose is to make you experienced and to make you strong. So your attitude towards it is never that it shouldn't be there, why is it there, that's not fair, etc., the usual reactions. And that means that your positioning is different. And okay, you become good at dealing with opposition. Opposition, it becomes like nothing for you, and then the other people who are used to people getting stopped by opposition get a little destabilized, and the person who's not concerned about opposition moves forward, and you're changing what could be called the balance of power.
That term itself sounds very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose once it happens, you can actually feel it happening, can't you?
You can, and then you start to command respect, where the prejudices against you, if you're a woman, if you're a person of color, whatever your thing is that they're prejudiced against, it's like the prejudice doesn't work anymore. And it's being challenged by something that's right in front of you, not somebody saying something, but somebody being something. And then you have to change your position and change your tune, change your vibration, everything shifts.
Sister Denise, I think we have to say goodbye to our viewers shortly. Would you like to leave them with a few last words before we do so?
I think very important to think about is that if something opposes me, it doesn't mean I should stop doing it. Consult your conscience. You feel this what I want to do, this what I am doing is right. Opposition comes to make you experienced, to make you strong, and you move through that opposition, and this is what builds your resilience and your willpower.
Wow, I could not have said that better myself. That is a very beautiful message, and I think for everyone who has embarked on a spiritual journey, a very necessary message to hear, because all of us have been guilty of giving up on ourselves from time to time. We start something that is terribly important to us, personally, professionally, in our relationships, and then we give up because of the resistance that we experience. So Sister Denise has shared a very powerful method on how to persevere at something that you believe you should not just do, but be. Very, very powerful message, simple, but also I like the practical application of it. It's something that you and I can put into practice immediately. Thank you, Sister Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for spending this half an hour with us. I hope that we get to see you again for the next episode. Take care and goodbye.